There's going to be some moves made over the course of the next 7 days that could shift the landscape of college football moving forward. That's right. We are a week from the early signing period. I got Director of Recruiting Chad Simmons on to talk some five-star intel. There's some late action that we got to break down. But first, you guys do me a favor. Hit subscribe to the best recruiting channel on all of YouTube, the On3 Recruits channel. Get on board. All right, let's bring in Chad Simmons. And Chad, we're going to talk five-star intel. But moments before you and I sat down, four-star edge London Merritt announced his decommitment from Ohio State, and there's a program that's on my mind that could be trending. What's the latest on London Merritt?
Yeah, probably the school that's on your mind, Josh, is Deion Sanders, Coach Prime in Colorado. You know, obviously he was out there just earlier this month for a 2-day visit, watched practice, watched workouts, sat in on meetings, and I'm told really got a good feeling for being like a true student athlete out there in Boulder and what it would be like. And, you know, look, just a few days ago, he was planning to be back up in Columbus this weekend for the game against the team up north, as they say, Michigan, with Ohio State being the host team. And he will not take that trip. He's backed off that pledge. And right now, Colorado looks to be in the driver's seat.
So do you think that London Merritt, I mean, is this the reason he decommitted Colorado, or do you see him taking a surprise visit this weekend?
You know, right now there's no buzz about surprise visit. You know, obviously that's why it could be a surprise potentially. We'll see what happens there. I mean, we know what happened with David Sanders this past weekend popping up, you know, at Ohio State. Things, you know, could happen and materialize. I'm sure there'll be some schools maybe that reach out. I mean, when I was down there, I think it was September, he mentioned North Carolina was coming pretty hard, talking to Colorado. He's never been completely 100% locked in and shut that door. So we'll see if schools reach out, if he's receptive, or in his mind, he knows where he wants to go already.
All right. Now, yeah, we're going to talk David Sanders right now. We're going to talk 4 5-star offensive linemen in a row that are all – now, I don't want to say they're on flip watch, but there's all some sort of action going on in their recruitment. So let's start at the top with the number 1 offensive tackle, David Sanders. You said it. He popped up in Columbus for a visit to Ohio State. What's the buzz this week as we're 1 week away from early signing day?
Yeah, there's a thin line, Josh, between flip watch and just who's looking a little bit, who's listening still. I mean, it's hard to gauge, too, because when David makes that trip from Charlotte, North Carolina, up to Columbus, Ohio, and all the Ohio State gear, big game against Indiana, walks in with the grand entrance, you know. Look, is it real? It's real, but how real is the question as far as his interest in Ohio State? Look, Tennessee has done all the right things leading up to signing day with David Sanders and his family, and checking all their boxes on the field, off the field. He has great relationships in Knoxville with the coaching staff, a lot of the players, many commitments. It'll be tough, I think, for us to definitely flip him in the end, but he is listening. He is looking. He was on campus, and there's some real buzz around Ohio State. Now, there's still confidence in Knoxville, talking to people connected to the program at Tennessee. They still feel good about keeping David in this class, but now they know it's not going to be so easy these final 7 days to make sure he's locked in with the Vols.
All right, another 5-star offensive tackle on the move is Michael Fusi. He's committed to the Oklahoma Sooners. He was at Texas last weekend, and he's expected to be at A&M this weekend. What's going on with Michael Fusi and that commitment to Oklahoma?
Yeah, Josh, you know, obviously Fusi with Ohio State, you know, or I'm sorry, with Tennessee, they're worried about one school, Ohio State with David Sanders. Oklahoma's worried about 2 schools, 2 in-state schools, Texas and Texas A&M when it comes to Michael Fusi. Been committed to OU since August, and it's been what looked to be extremely strong in that commitment. Obviously, Norman, there was a big game going on there with Alabama. They upset Alabama last weekend. Instead of being there, which he originally planned to be, he was in Austin for their win over Kentucky. Like you said, he'll be in College Station this weekend for the Texas game. And this one is likely to go into next week before we kind of have a better feel about kind of just how strong he is with Oklahoma, or who is the bigger threat between Texas and Texas A&M. What I know right now is his connections in Norman and Oklahoma are extremely strong, and they start with offensive line coach Bill Bedenbaugh. That is really, quote unquote, his guy. That's the guy that he connects with, he believes in, from off the field, leadership standpoint to on the field, developmental standpoint. I think the biggest question right now in Fasusi's mind is, where does Venables go with the offensive coordinator job? And does that new OC bring in a whole new entire offensive staff? Does Beatonball have a chance of leaving Norman? Will he be in Norman next year? I think if that was not a question, these visits likely wouldn't take place. I think right now Oklahoma's still in a good spot to hold on. He's taking these visits just to make sure of his decision. There's interest. These schools are pushing, but I think OU will be tough to beat in the end.
All right, another 5-star offensive tackle. This one, Tai Haywood. He's committed to Alabama, but there's really one team that's giving Alabama a run right now, and that's Michigan. So what's the latest with Tai Haywood and the Wolverines?
I think the key here, Josh, is can Michigan get Haywood on campus? He's never been to Ann Arbor.
Yeah.
This one kind of came out of nowhere, last week, and obviously I confirmed with Hayward and his camp that there's communication, there's dialogue there. There is some level of interest there in the Wolverines as well. I mean, he wants to find the best fit, the best place for him. Now, look, he's from Mississippi. He grew up a fan of Alabama. His mom's a huge fan of Alabama. When him and mom are on the same page, that's what got his commitment to Alabama locked in the first place. So when you recruit Ty, you have to get the mom on board as well. Michigan's working hard. There's definitely consistent communication there with his camp. They're trying to figure out, could there be a midweek visit? Could he pop up in Ann Arbor on Sunday when they get done and get back home from the Ohio State game? That's possible as well. Nothing at this time has been locked in. One more thing to watch here, Josh, is he's not an early enrollee. So Ty could decide not to sign next week, take it into February, and just take his time and take that visit to Michigan in January. So there's a lot of things we're watching here, but right now Tai Haywood remains committed to Alabama. He feels good about that decision, but Michigan's definitely knocking on that door.
Yeah, I agree with you. Until he shows up in Ann Arbor, I think this one is going to go in the Tide's direction. But like you said, he has a couple options here on how he finishes out his recruitment. All right, another 5-star offensive lineman. This one's interior offensive lineman Solomon Thomas, who's committed to FSU, but obviously FSU's commit list is being picked apart right now, and Solomon Thomas is the lone 5-star that still remains on that list. But we got Florida Gators, we got LSU. What are you looking at with Solomon Thomas as we're a week out from signing day?
Yeah, we talked about like Fusi with Beatonbaugh, same way with Solomon Thomas was with Alex Atkins, and Atkins is out, and that's why Thomas is looking. I mean, we talk about the business side, the NIL, that all is very real, no doubt, but there's also still those roots that are relationships with these guys that trust these coaches and trust the guys on campus to make them better men, better football players. That's how Solomon Thomas was with Alex Atkins. Atkins is gone. Norvell's still there. He's still being the guy that communicates with Thomas, his family, and other staffers as well. But right now it comes down to, who does Norvell hire as offensive line coach, and do he and Thomas hit it off and connect right away? There's a small window for Norvell to get this hire done and make sure it's the right hire if he wants to keep Thomas in place. And Thomas told me Norvell's being very transparent about kind of where he's at with the hiring, when he wants to get the job done. And that's going to play a big role. I mean, Thomas told me he's not locked into signing on December 4th. He could go to 5th, maybe even the 6th, but likely the 5th right now, just to give Norvell the time to get the hiring in place and to at least see how that relationship goes right there off the bat. The other schools in play, he was at LSU this past weekend, at Florida the weekend before. Based on intel for me, it seems Florida is the bigger competitor right now. He knows that staff extremely well. It's an in-state school. He had a great time in Baton Rouge. He loves Brad Davis. He sees a good direction in the future under Brian Kelly, he said, as far as an SEC program competing for championships. But what I'm getting in return from not just Thomas, from other people connected either Florida or Thomas's recruitment, is Florida is the team to watch. I mean, it's right down the road from Jacksonville to Gainesville. He knows not just Billy Napier, not just Rob Sale, but the staffers behind the scenes. He knows players on the team. He knows a lot of commits. in this class as well. Guys like Vernell Brown are working on him. Tramel Jones recently flipped from Florida State to Florida right there in Jacksonville, recruiting him. So, look, Florida is a team to watch. You can't discount LSU, but I still think FSU has a great chance to hold on here. It comes down to that hire in Norvell these last few days.
All right, we're going to have to keep an eye on where these five-star offensive tackles, offensive linemen end up. Now, the next name that we're going to cover, I actually have him on Flip Watch. We're talking five-star corner Naim Alford. He's committed to Ohio State. But right now, Chad, I feel like there's probably a better chance that he ends up at Oregon or Auburn. What's your read on Naim Alford's recruitment?
Yeah, I think, Steve Wilfong and I have been kind of painting this picture for months that we would take the field over him staying with Ohio State. Now, at different times, maybe him and I have had different intel suggesting maybe Oregon, suggesting maybe Auburn on different days, different weeks, different times of the season. But I think right now, we get down to kind of crunch time, we're on the same page, and we think Auburn is that team to beat. Even though he remains committed to Ohio State, he says he'll be back in Columbus as of right now this weekend for the Michigan game. He's had plans before this season to get back there. He did not make that trip, so we'll see if he makes it. If he does, that's big for Ohio State. Obviously, Oregon is not giving up. But look, he's been to Auburn, I believe, 4 games this season. He's been to a practice earlier in the season. The connections there. Look, he became like a Hugh Freeze project at one point this year where Hugh Freeze was checking in every day with him, his family. What do you need? What can we do for you? Wesley McGriff's been there, Coach Crime, Charles Kelly, Kenyatta Watson, other staffers involved. He knows this team, in-state program. We like where Auburn sits right now. Oregon will not go away, and he's still committed to Ohio State. Does he get back there this weekend? We'll have to wait and see. But right now, all the buzz is around the Auburn Tigers.
Yeah, if he shows up at Ohio State this weekend, that changes things for me, but I'm not expecting that at this point in his recruitment, but we'll keep watching into the weekend. One last five-star I want to talk about is Jamie French. You and Steve Wiltfong have both been saying since the summer months that in the end, the Florida in-state programs are going to make a run. Well, here we are at the end, and we see the Florida Gators are pretty much the in-state program. I mean, I'm sure Miami is still there, still knocking on his door, but Jamie French committed to Texas. We're a week out from signing day. What's up with French?
Well, the good thing about Texas, in their eyes, they got him back on campus to Austin last weekend for that Kentucky game. And to me, that was huge because week before that I think there was some scaredness out there in Austin about Jamie with his official visit to Florida, his teammate Tramel Jones flipping from Florida State to Florida, his close friend Vernell Brown being a Florida ambassador, the leader of this recruiting class, recruiting him as well. He knows numerous guys in this class at Florida. But look, he's close to Khalil Lockett at Texas. He wants to always talk about playing with Arch Manning in that offense under Steve Sarkisian. He's close to Chris Jackson, the receivers coach. And I think them getting him back on campus this past weekend has kind of shifted that quick surge by Florida back into Texas's favor of keeping him in this class. He had a great time on the visit. The family loves the people, the culture, the direction of the program obviously speaks for itself. Back in a playoff run again this year for the second year in a row. So right now the buzz has kind of shifted back from that quick, maybe 24, 48-hour window around Florida buzz back into Texas's favor coming off that trip to Austin.
All right, there it is. A lot of five-star action that we're going to be following heading into the early signing day next Wednesday. Chad, appreciate you dropping by the Inside Scoop. You guys, talk to us. Comment section below. Where do you think these five stars are going? Let us know.